Hi, welcome to our channel where we share the most intriguing stories. When Jackson Winters retreated to his off-grid forest cabin for a quiet weekend, he expected peace. What he got was a group of strangers claiming they'd rented his home. But this wasn't their cozy getaway, it was his domain. And Jackson doesn't call the cops first. He watches, then he acts. I always say there's nothing more satisfying than silence. Not the awkward kind you get in city elevators or on phone calls with customer support. No, I mean the real kind. The kind that blankets you in pine resin and bird song, where the only notifications come from squirrels getting into territorial disputes outside your window. That's what I bought into when I found this old forest house in the tax repossession listings. 20 acres of private woodland, a cabin with a metal roof that could survive a Category 5 tantrum from Mother Nature, and no neighbors for several. 100 yards in any direction. I called it peace. The rest of the world called it the middle of nowhere. Perfect. I don't live there full time. I dip in and out. Long weekends, week-long retreats when corporate IT starts to rot my brain. My name's Jackson Winters. I used to run red team simulations for major companies, cybersecurity penetration testing, the usual digital cloak and dagger. These days, I write documentation for an encryption startup and maintain a healthy paranoia about anyone walking too close to my mailbox. The cabin feeds that instinct nicely. It's locked down with everything short of claymores, steel gates across a 700-foot gravel driveway, solar surveillance, backup satellite internet, redundant batteries, and enough motion sensors to make a raccoon reconsider his life choices. That Friday evening, I arrived like I always do. Groceries in the cooler, phone on airplane mode, world on mute. I grilled a steak, cracked open a dark IPA, and settled onto the screen porch with my laptop and a slowly loading weather map. It was quiet. Too quiet, maybe. Not a single deer or coyote on the perimeter feeds. And then, just as I was contemplating whether I had oversecured myself into sensory deprivation, the feed from camera 2 lit up. Headlights. 2 vehicles, slow-moving, rolling up the gravel path from the public road. No local license plates. I sat forward and toggled between angles. A white Tesla Model Y in front. A gray Jeep behind it, caked in suburban mud. Both moving with that cautious, I don't know if I belong here kind of rhythm. They stopped just before the main gate. I stared at the screen, waiting for them to back out. Instead, the Tesla's window rolled down. A woman's voice, smooth and confident, crackled through the intercom mic like she owned the place. "Hi there. We're here for the weekend rental. Are you staff?" I didn't respond right away. I just took a slow sip of beer and checked the security log. No alerts, no deliveries, no expected guests. I switched to mic and kept my voice even. "You're at the wrong property. This is private land. Please turn around." There was a pause. A too long pause. I saw her glance at her phone, then up at the gate. She leaned forward again. "Isn't this 217 Maple Hollow Trail? We booked through Tranquil Retreats. This is the forest spa place, right? Look, we paid already." "No," I said. "This land isn't for rent. Never has been. Please leave now." She didn't even hesitate. "I think there's been some confusion. You're just the property manager, right? We'll check in ourselves." "Don't worry, we brought our own linens." I muted the mic. I watched as they started unloading luggage, coolers, a Bluetooth speaker. Someone in cargo shorts popped out of the Jeep with a wine tote. Then the woman, tall, maybe early 50s, platinum hair pulled tight into a bun, like she was about to audit a resort into bankruptcy, walked up to the gate and gave the lock a shake. I toggled to the thermal cam near the southern trail and cursed under my breath. They weren't giving up. In fact, they were splitting up. While the others waited, she led her little group along the side path, a narrow service trail I had stupidly left chained with only a plastic barrier and a no trespassing sign that most people would respect. But Karen, and yes, she would be Karen until proven otherwise, decided that it meant entry for VIPs only. They cut the chain. I watched them march single file into the tree line like some deranged version of a guided hike. I flicked on infrared to track them as they wound their way up the incline toward the back of the house. And then I stood up, walked into the darkened hallway, and locked the basement door behind me. They weren't just lost, they were breaking in. And I had a front row seat. I stayed still in the hall listening. No sound inside yet. Just the faint crunch of gravel and twigs from outside as the intruders pushed deeper into my property. Through the upstairs monitor, I watched as their thermal signatures came into range near the southern edge of the house. 6 people, 3 women, 3 men, all mid-30s to early 50s. They moved with annoying confidence, like they were late to their dinner reservation and too important to care. One of the guys carried a Bluetooth speaker on his shoulder, still mercifully silent. Another popped open a can of something, tossed it into the woods, and kept walking. They emerged into the clearing behind my house like they were entering a vacation brochure. The trail spit them out near the back deck, a long wooden platform with a wide view of the tree line, and not a single welcome mat in sight. The sliding door was closed but unlocked. I never worried about break-ins from that angle, until now. I watched as Karen took the lead. She tried the door, found it open, and called over her shoulder, "Told you! No check-in needed. Let's get settled." She stepped in like it was her timeshare. One by one, they followed her inside. I didn't move. I just switched the monitor view to internal feeds. Motion-activated cameras scattered throughout the living room, kitchen, hallway. Karen made a beeline for the kitchen and flung open the fridge. I watched her expression twist as she spotted a 6-pack of my craft IPA and 3 vacuum-packed steaks. She turned to the others. "Well, that's unexpected," she said. "But they probably stock these places before guests arrive. Someone's going to get a good review." Her friends laughed. One of the men, taller, gym tan, sunglasses still on, indoors, opened a cabinet, found my coffee stash, and whistled. "Hey, whoever owns this place has good taste. Single origin Ethiopian." "Perfect," Karen said. "Let's unpack." They started bringing in their bags from the back deck. Duffels, grocery totes. Someone carried in a yoga mat. I watched, jaw tightening, as one of them took off his shoes, dropped onto my couch, and kicked his feet up like he was home. Another woman, blonde with expensive sandals and a wine tumbler already in hand, started filming the interior on her phone. I turned on the mic for the hallway speaker and spoke calmly. "You need to leave. Immediately." There was silence. A beat. Then Karen looked up. "What was that?" she said, scanning the room. "Private property," I said. "This is not a rental. You are trespassing." They all froze. One of the women gasped. The guy on the couch sat upright, startled. "Who said that?" someone asked. Karen rolled her eyes. "Probably a sound system. Some of these rental homes come with those AI concierge setups. Don't worry, I'll handle it." She walked over to the speaker in the hallway and leaned toward it. "Hi there. We booked this place through tranquilretreats.com. Confirmation code R11283GF. I can send it if you want. Just let us know where the towels are." I muted the mic again. I checked the feed from the kitchen. One of the guests was already helping himself to a bottle of sparkling water from my fridge. I could feel my blood pressure rising. She thought this was a customer service problem. I took a deep breath and activated what I called observation mode. It wasn't aggressive, just a little unsettling. Infrared uplighting along the baseboards. Slow dimming of the ambient lights, one room at a time. Sound playback of creaking floorboards in the attic. A soft wind howl, real, recorded from a winter storm last year, played in the upstairs vent. The guy with the sunglasses looked up, uneasy. Anyone else hear that?" Blonde woman laughed nervously. "Maybe it's like a themed escape room thing. Forest survival experience. That's a thing, right?" Karen brushed them off. "Relax. This is all part of the rustic charm. I've booked cabins with weirder setups." Someone in the kitchen dropped a fork. A second later, a guy in a hoodie walked over to the back door and tried the handle, still unlocked. He stepped out, looking into the tree line. I switched to exterior thermal and followed his movement. He was pacing, checking his phone, probably trying to get a signal. Back inside, Karen had commandeered the coffee table and was flipping through one of my field notebooks. She squinted at the code sketches, flipped the page, and muttered, "Okay, weird nerd stuff," before closing it. I toggled back to audio. "Who gave you permission to enter this property?" I asked, my voice now lower. Karen stiffened. "Okay, that's enough. This isn't funny anymore. Where's the manager?" "There is no manager. There is no rental. There is only a very real criminal charge if you don't leave right now." She turned to the others. "He's bluffing. These places are unstaffed. They use remote contractors. It's probably just a maintenance guy with a power complex." Her voice was confident. Her eyes, less so. She tried calling someone on her phone, pacing the living room. I watched as the call failed. "No signal out here, not unless you had the right uplink." I watched the guests look at each other. One of them, the quiet guy in the flannel, finally said what they were all thinking. "Are we sure this is legit?" Karen didn't answer. I smiled and reached for the control panel. Showtime was coming. I don't lose my temper. That's not my style. But I do believe in escalation. Thoughtful, deliberate escalation. You come into my house, eat my food, mock my notebooks. You get the full show. I disabled the main power with a tap. Every light in the house cut out in a perfect synchronized blackout. No flicker, no warning, just instant void. The silence that followed was sharp, like the air itself had frozen. Then came the first shout. "Hey, what the hell?" Someone dropped a glass. Another stumbled into a chair. In the dark, their voices took on that thin edge of panic, just sharp enough to be funny if you weren't the one locked in with them. I waited a beat, then activated the garage siren. It was old, wired for wildlife deterrent, but inside the house it sounded like an incoming airstrike. The guests screamed. Karen yelled something about unsafe rental conditions. One of them tried the light switches. Another banged on the thermostat. Then I spoke again, calmly, slowly, through every speaker in the house. "Unauthorized presence detected. Vacate the premises. You have 3 minutes." The silence after that was even better than the one before. No one moved. I heard heavy breathing, a nervous laugh, then a crash, someone knocking over a lamp. The guy in the hoodie shouted, "This is a prank, right? This is some Airbnb horror experience?" Karen snapped. "No, it's a glitch in their stupid smart house system. Don't freak out. I'm calling the company." She pulled out her phone again. Zero signal. I watched her stomp toward the front windows, holding the phone up like she could will a bar into existence. Her voice was rising, that mix of fake calm and real terror. "Hello? Hello? Can anyone hear me?" She couldn't, but I could. I switched to vent mode. Hidden speakers behind the HVAC vents began to emit low, uneven breathing sounds, mixed with creaks, soft steps, a whispered looping phrase, "You're not alone. Who gave you permission?" It was subtle at first, just low enough that they questioned if they were hearing anything at all. The blonde woman screamed, "Stop it! This is messed up. I have anxiety." Someone tripped on the rug. A bottle smashed against the tile floor. The sunglasses guy pulled out a pocket knife and started spinning in circles like he was in a slasher movie. Karen shouted over them, "Everyone calm down. I'm calling my contact. I have a contract." She yelled at the ceiling like it owed her something. Then she marched into the dining room and began dialing furiously. The fake number she'd created for her booking company. I'd seen it earlier in the metadata of one of her social profiles. Naturally didn't pick up. She paced, breathing fast, then yelled, "This is illegal! I'm calling the police." I flipped on the hallway projector. A grainy black and white feed appeared on the far wall. Footage from an old sheriff's raid I had downloaded years ago during a consulting gig. Uniformed men with rifles breached a cabin door and shouted commands. The video looped silently, but the effect was chilling. I framed it like a security cam feed. The guests saw it and froze. "Oh my God," someone whispered. Are they here now?" Karen looked up, trying to rationalize. "That's probably just a training video. Or fake. It's not real." But she didn't sound convinced. I activated the next sequence. A short, looping thud, like footsteps above the ceiling. Then a slamming door sound from the basement level. The guy with the sunglasses bolted to the front door and pulled. Locked, steel reinforced. Good luck. The panic began to spiral. The blonde was crying. The quiet guy muttered, "We need to get out of here. I knew this was shady. This is some Unabomber shit." Karen turned on them. "Stop acting like children. I booked this legally." The site had photos, reviews. This is all part of some deranged owner's setup. He's trying to scare us because he didn't like the booking. I will sue his ass. I muted her voice. I was done listening. Instead, I called the sheriff's department. On the satellite phone, routed through the encrypted uplink. Calm and precise. "My name is Jackson Winters. I'm the legal owner of a private property on Maple Hollow Trail. I have intruders in my home who bypassed locked gates and entered without permission. I have video footage, GPS logs, and perimeter sensors confirming unauthorized access." The dispatcher took it seriously. I heard typing. Then, "Deputies are en route. Stay safe. Do not confront them directly." "Understood," I said, and hung up. Back inside, the projector showed another loop. An exterior shot of police cruisers arriving, filmed from someone's porch cam. I let it roll just to see how they'd react. The flannel guy started hyperventilating. Karen was trying to climb onto the kitchen island, shouting for someone to track the property listing and send help. One of her friends asked the worst possible question. "Karen, who exactly owns this place?" She didn't answer. That was all the answer they needed. They wanted out. That much was clear. One by one, they began trying doors, windows, even the fireplace flew. The guy with the sunglasses was pacing like a caged animal, checking every possible exit. Karen tried to command the group, her voice sharp and brittle, but no one was listening anymore. The illusion had cracked. The elite rental fantasy was unraveling into something much uglier and fast. I watched through the infrared overlay as someone made a dash for the back door, the one they'd come in through, locked now, bolted from the inside, and with a pressure sensor along the frame. When the guy in the hoodie yanked it open, the alarm triggered a low-frequency rumble through the floorboards. He yelped and fell backward into a pile of duffel bags. "We're trapped," he shouted. Karen spun toward him. "No, we are not. We are guests. This is just some sick power trip." The blonde woman was rocking on the edge of the sofa, hugging her knees, murmuring that she didn't want to die in a Pinterest cabin. "I need signal," Karen snapped. "I need to get a lawyer on the phone." She stormed out onto the back deck, phone raised like a crucifix, slowly spinning, scanning for even a whisper of reception. No bars, no satellites for her, not unless she knew where to look. And I had long since rerouted the signal amplifiers to require biometric unlock. From the corner camera, I watched her frustration boil over. She hurled her phone into the woods. Someone else, flannel guy, decided he'd had enough. He limped toward the gate trail they'd come through, muttering about suing everyone. The moment his foot hit the gravel path, the solar lights lining the edge flared to life. Motion triggered, white and sterile. Behind them, the security gate clicked and clamped into full lockdown. The Jeep and the Tesla sat on the far side, dark and unreachable. He froze. Back in the house, I heard someone retching in the guest bathroom. Another was crying softly in the pantry. Karen had taken to pacing in circles in the foyer, barking fragments of legal threats into the air like they might turn into an exit strategy. I dimmed the lights even further, just enough that their reflections in the windows looked like someone else was watching from outside. The guy with the sunglasses finally snapped. "That's it. I'm breaking the window. We'll get to the cars and just drive." He picked up a fire poker from the hearth and approached the living room window. I let him get close, wait until his hand touched the cold steel frame, then triggered the subwoofer in the wall behind him. Just a single pulse, deep, disorienting, like the house exhaled in warning. He dropped the poker and bolted back toward the others. Karen tried to regain control. "He's bluffing. It's just some tech freak with a budget for haunted house toys. He can't keep us here forever." And then I gave her something real. From the upstairs speaker, I played a soundbite from my library, a real sheriff's drone flyover recorded last fall. Whirring rotors, radio static, officer chatter. The reaction was immediate. The flannel guy looked up like salvation had come. The blonde woman ran to the window, yelling, "They found us." Karen paused, halfway through a sentence, and squinted at the ceiling. I let it run for a full minute, then cut it. That's when the real thing happened. The rear camera pinged. 2 sheriff's cruisers, one marked, one unmarked, eased through the second gate at the far end of the property, the one I'd opened for them remotely 5 minutes prior. They moved slow, quiet, lights off, professionals. I'd spoken to Deputy Marlin on the satellite call. He knew the layout, knew not to spook anyone yet. Inside, Karen was busy digging through her backpack, searching for a printed contract. Her hands were shaking. The cruisers parked just beyond the tree line. Deputies stepped out, eyes scanning the house, weapons holstered but ready. I pinged the front entry lock. 3 times our agreed-upon signal. They approached from the side. Inside the cabin, panic was now a riot. Karen was screaming into her non-functional phone. Someone had pulled open the fridge again and was guzzling my orange juice. The guy in flannel was standing dead still in the foyer, mouth open, as if he'd finally seen the invisible line they'd crossed. Then came the knock. 3 sharp raps on the front door. The house went dead silent. Another knock. Then a calm voice. "This is the Gilmer County Sheriff's Department. Step outside with your hands visible." Karen whispered, "Oh my God," like she'd just realized she wasn't the victim in this story. I muted the audio and let the deputies take it from there. They didn't run. That was the first surprise. Maybe it was the voice of the deputy, steady, calm, authoritative, or maybe it was the realization finally sinking in, like cold water down the back of the neck. Either way, when the front door creaked open and Deputy Marlin stepped inside, hand resting casually on his holster, the room full of intruders turned to statues. "Hands where I can see them," he said. 6 people complied, slowly. No screams, no protests, just trembling fingers in the air and wide, uncertain eyes. I stood behind the deputies, holding my ID folder, printed deed, and a thumb drive with time-stamped footage from 4 different camera angles. I was still in jeans and a flannel shirt, but the badge of ownership gave me all the authority I needed. Karen saw me and froze. "You," she said, voice full of something between outrage and disbelief. You're the one messing with the lights." "I live here," I said. "You do not." One of the other deputies took out a flashlight and swept it across the living room. Bags everywhere, empty bottles, a pizza box someone had brought in from their car. And in the center of it all, Karen standing with her arms folded, still trying to hold on to the shreds of control like they were silk scarves in a storm. Deputy Marlin turned to me. "Mr. Winters, can you confirm your identity and ownership of this property?" I handed him the documents. "I can do better than that. I've got surveillance footage of the group entering through the back trail after cutting a chain, entering the home without permission, removing items from the fridge, and ignoring 2 verbal warnings to vacate." He nodded, already watching the footage I had queued up on my tablet. The chain-cutting scene hit hard. One of the guests, flannel guy, groaned and muttered, "I told you this felt shady." Karen snapped, "It wasn't shady. I have a confirmation email." Deputy Marlin looked at her. "Ma'am, do you have any documentation showing you had a legal right to be here?" She pulled out her phone, still dark. After fumbling for a moment, she produced a printout, slightly crumpled, high-gloss inkjet of a PDF. At the top, Tranquil Retreats, booking confirmation. Underneath, a logo of some sun-dappled tree. And beneath that, a name. Property host, Robert Cowell. Deputy Marlin glanced at me. "I don't know anyone by that name," I said. I reached into my folder and handed over the parcel records for the lot. 1 owner, 1 legal occupant, no LLCs or property management companies. Just me. Karen lifted her chin. "Well, then maybe you aren't the real owner." The deputy raised an eyebrow. "Ma'am, this document lists a Robert Cowell as host. This name doesn't appear anywhere in the county records." "Do you have a phone number for this person?" Karen fumbled again. "It's on the website. I think he had a different number. The signal here is awful." Another guest, the guy with sunglasses, rubbed his temples. "Karen, did you talk to this guy? Or did you just assume this place was listed?" "I booked it," she shouted. "It was on the site. I paid for it." Deputy Marlin asked, "Paid who?" Karen hesitated. "Through the site. I used my Stripe account." "And who owns the site?" Her lips parted. No sound came out. The blonde woman stepped forward, arms crossed. "Wait, Karen, you sent me the payment link. It wasn't through a site. It was a direct payment to your business account. You told me it was a group share." All eyes turned to Karen. I did it for simplicity," she said. "It's standard for group travel. I've done it before." The flannel guy spoke next, quieter. "You charged each of us $500, said it was a rustic eco-retreat, that the host preferred minimal contact." I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. The deputy asked, "So to be clear, you organized this trip, collected payment, and led this group onto private property that you had no verified right to access." "I was misled," Karen said quickly. "Someone tricked me." "That website must have been a scam." Deputy Marlin asked, "Which website?" Karen hesitated. Then she muttered, "tranquilretreats.co." The second deputy pulled out his phone, tapped something, then looked up. "Sites registered under an LLC in Georgia. Trace leads to a Gmail address. Want to guess what name's on it?" Karen went pale. I pulled the final card from the folder, a printed HOAs lookup, listing the registration email tied to a Shell LLC, with a public Facebook post where Karen was promoting her new retreat listing service. She stared at it for a long time. Then she finally said, "They were never supposed to come here. I didn't think." The silence swallowed the rest of her sentence. For a moment, no one moved. The air in the room felt heavy, like it had thickened with the realization that things had crossed a line no one could walk back. Karen still had her mouth open, but she wasn't talking anymore. Her mind was spinning too fast to form actual words. Around her, the rest of the group slowly started stepping away, putting space between themselves and the woman who had promised them a weekend retreat, but had instead delivered a felony. Deputy Marlin broke the silence. "Ma'am, you need to sit down." Karen didn't move. He said it again, this time more firmly. "Now." She took a seat on the edge of the couch, knees tight, hands twisted in the strap of her handbag like it might float her out of the room if she squeezed hard enough. The second deputy, a younger guy with sharp eyes and a notebook already halfway full, looked at me. "Mr. Winters, can we continue reviewing your video evidence? Specifically, the entry point, damage to the gate, and interior behavior." I handed him the second thumb drive. "Every angle is time-stamped and geotagged. You'll see them cutting the plastic chain, walking the trail, entering the house, and ignoring at least 3 audio warnings." He nodded, plugged it into his tablet, and began reviewing. I watched over his shoulder as the scene unfolded. Night vision footage of Karen leading her caravan through the woods, flashlight in hand, smiling. Her voice was chipper as she told someone to watch the roots. "Don't twist your ankle before the wine." Inside, they were filmed opening drawers, helping themselves to the fridge, even joking about stealing the owner's secret stash. That part got a quiet snort from one of the deputies. Karen saw the footage too. That could be anyone," she said, voice shaky. "That footage could be fake. Deepfakes are a thing now. You people can't just—" The younger deputy interrupted her. "Ma'am, is that or is that not you in this video, holding a flashlight, entering through the back door?" Karen looked around as if someone would save her. No one did. She nodded once, barely. "Was the gate locked when you arrived?" Deputy Marlin asked. "Yes," she muttered. "Did you bypass it?" We thought the property was open access, that maybe the owner forgot to reset it." He raised an eyebrow. With a plastic chain and a no trespassing sign, she didn't answer. I could see the group's collective mood shifting. The blonde was now clearly furious, arms folded, pacing in tight circles. The guy with sunglasses sat against the far wall, head in his hands. Flannel guy had been quiet for a while, probably rehearsing what he'd tell his lawyer. Deputy Marlin turned to the group. "Can anyone here provide evidence that Karen had permission to access this property, either directly or through a verified rental service?" No one spoke. The blonde finally broke. "She sent us a payment link. That's it. No contract. Just a PDF and some pictures she said were exclusive access. She told us this place belonged to one of her clients." "Clients?" Marlin asked. Karen straightened up, grasping at straws. "I'm a vacation curator. I organize rustic retreats. It's all very informal. Nobody ever complained before." The younger deputy looked up from the tablet. "Yeah? Because we just found your website's admin backend still logged in. Your name's on the Stripe account, and the fake host emails redirect to your Gmail. You used stock photos and reposted drone shots scraped off real estate forums. Half the listings don't even exist." Karen blinked. "I didn't make money," she said, voice cracking. "I barely broke even. It was just a side hustle." "Everyone does side hustles," Flannel guy finally snapped. "You told me this was your family's second property, that your uncle used it for artist residencies." Karen stood up. "I was trying to give people an experience, a real one. Not everyone can afford real vacations, so I created opportunities. By breaking into my house, I asked." She turned on me. "You're just some shut-in with cameras. Who hoards land in the middle of nowhere? No one even lives here." "I do," I said. "Just not full-time. And that still makes it mine." Deputy Marlin stepped between us. "All right, that's enough." He signaled to his partner, who stepped forward with zip cuffs. "Ma'am, at this time, you're being detained on suspicion of trespassing, criminal mischief, and wire fraud. Please turn around." Karen stared at him like she didn't understand the words. "What? You can't be serious. I'm not a criminal. I'm a small business owner." "No," Marlin said calmly. "You're a scammer who got caught." As she was cuffed, she shouted, "You can't do this. I have clients. I have influence. I will sue all of you." But it didn't matter anymore. As the deputies led her outside, I noticed something strange. None of the other guests were protesting. No one begged the police to reconsider. They were quiet, almost grateful, like someone had finally shut off the screaming smoke alarm in their heads. The air outside was different. Cooler, still heavy with pine sap and humidity, but it no longer vibrated with tension. Karen was in cuffs, yelling into the trees, insisting she'd be vindicated by the internet and that her network of real estate attorneys would be here any minute. The deputies didn't dignify her delusions with a response, just helped her into the back of the cruiser, closed the door, and let the silence settle. Inside the house, the rest of the group stood in awkward stillness. No one sat. No one spoke. It felt like the aftermath of a fire. The part where you just wait and breathe and realize that everything still smells like smoke, even if the flames are out. Deputy Marlin returned, notepad in hand. "We'll need statements from everyone," he said. "Names, contact info, a summary of how you got here and what you were told. This is now part of a formal investigation into rental fraud." Blonde woman, her name turned out to be Cassie, went first. She didn't hold back. She showed us a listing, said it was a private deal, claimed she had direct access from a property owner who wanted to keep it off the grid. She said we were lucky to even get the spot. "And did you sign anything?" Marlin asked. "No. Just paid her through a link." She said it was normal for boutique retreats. Sunglasses guy followed. Mike. He was still rattled, kept running his hands through his hair. She had this whole speech, said she ran a startup for spiritual escapes, showed us fake reviews, testimonials. I thought maybe she was legit. God, I feel stupid. "You're not the only one," flannel guy, his name was Jonah, added. "She promised me a weekend with no Wi-Fi and elk sightings. I just wanted a damn break." They all gave similar statements, each different in detail, but all with the same core truth. Karen had promised something beautiful, exclusive, remote, and she'd made sure they never questioned it. They'd handed her cash, praise, and control until the lights went out. When Marlin was done, he turned to me. "We'll be following up in the next couple of days, Mr. Winters. You'll likely be contacted by the county prosecutor. Do you wish to press charges?" I didn't answer immediately. I looked around my house. Bags on the floor, food half-eaten, guest towels unfolded and used like motel linen. They'd even knocked over a bonsai on the windowsill. "Hell yes," I said. Marlin nodded. "Thought so." The second deputy came back in, holding Karen's laptop and a zip folder of printed documents. "You're gonna want to see this," he said. 5 more properties, all listed on her fake site, all real homes. None of them hers. She's been pulling this scam for a while. "Great," Marlin muttered. "We'll hand it over to cybercrime and the DA's office." Cassie turned to me, voice small. "We really didn't know. We thought she had permission." I looked at them all. They were guilty of stupidity, maybe arrogance, but not ill intent. "I believe you," I said. "But next time someone says they know a guy with an off-grid villa, maybe Google the county records." They offered half-hearted apologies, which I accepted, and then I watched as they quietly gathered their things. There was no shouting anymore, no phones raised in defiance. Just quiet cleanup, the kind you do when you realize you weren't just duped, you were part of someone else's crime. The deputies helped escort them to their cars, made sure no one had alcohol in their system before driving. The guests left one by one, headlights vanishing down the long gravel drive like ghosts slipping back into the night. I stood alone on the porch, arms crossed, staring at the scorched patch of emotional residue where the nightmare had taken place. Somewhere in the distance, a barred owl called out. Inside, I began locking down again, rearming the sensors, resetting the camera timers, checking the feed storage, already uploading to my remote server, redundant cloud backups, cold storage in Virginia. Old habits die hard. Then I updated the security system banner. Private property, no rentals. Trespassers will be recorded and reported. And underneath that, just for fun, break in, and you'll wish it was a bear. It took 3 weeks for the paperwork to catch up with the truth. The DA's office called first. A calm voice, professional, asking if I'd be willing to testify, not just about the break-in, but about the website, the property misuse, the payment evidence, and the footage. Apparently Karen wasn't just a one-off offender. She was a small-scale ecosystem of fraud, hiding behind designer fonts and copy-pasted wellness slogans. They'd found at least 5 fake listings, one of which belonged to a couple in Blue Ridge who were out of the country when a group of bachelorette partygoers showed up drunk and furious, demanding entry. The couple's Ring camera caught the entire screaming match. It became part of the evidence file. The fraud charges stuck. The trespassing charges did too. When they searched Karen's laptop, they found records of over a dozen transactions across multiple accounts, all routed through the same stripe-linked LLC, one registered to her apartment address in Atlanta. She'd been curating experiences for almost a year, building a portfolio of imaginary escapes from other people's reality. She pled guilty. 3 years. Suspended sentence on 2. 18 months of mandatory restitution. Court-ordered community service. And, most satisfyingly, a permanent ban on working in property management or online rentals in the state of Georgia. Her mugshot hit the local news. So did her meltdown in court. Someone leaked courtroom audio of her yelling, "This was supposed to be my brand," before the judge cut her off. I watched it once, then deleted the tab. I'd already lived through the real version. The guests, Cassie, Mike, Jonah, and the others, wrote me letters. Actual physical letters. Apologies, explanations. One of them even included a gift card to a hardware store. I used it to buy a new back gate chain, made of solid steel this time. The sheriff's department sent me a thank you note for the clarity of my documentation. Apparently, most cases weren't nearly as clean. I wasn't surprised. I spent 10 years in cybersecurity. I know what messy looks like. Compared to a state-level data breach, this was a polite home invasion. Still, it shook something loose in me. I replaced every lock on the house, doubled the gate reinforcement. I upgraded the cameras to thermal dynamic, set the system to trigger a silent drone sweep if anyone passed the quarter-mile mark without clearance. And I added one final touch. A granite sign carved professionally, mounted in stone just before the curve in the drive where cell signal dies. It reads, "Private property, not for rent. Break in, get the show." Beneath it, etched smaller, just for those who might think they're clever, "Smile. You're already on camera." I still come up to the cabin twice a month. The trees don't judge, and the quiet here is earned. No fake listings, no influencers, no bliss-curated lies. Just me, the woods, and the comfort of knowing that no matter how entitled someone feels, the forest doesn't care who they think they are. It only listens, and sometimes it answers.